Hello, hello. This one is going to be very quick because it's almost the end of the school year and we don't have any time. No, we don't have any time. So, what I want to do is I want to share with you one of my absolute favorite lessons to bring into my classroom for the end of the school year. It's called One Adventurous Ant. And what I've done here is I love stories, right? I believe that stories teach so much better than we ever could. Because if you tell a child a fact, they'll forget it in a day. But if you tell a child a story, they're going to remember it for life. So, this story not only is going to get your students with doing all the fundamentals and all the everything, right? That we want to review before the end of the year and they forget it all, but it also comes with an interactive workbook that your students can be filling out while doing this story, giving you the data that you need while they think they're just doing some fun stuff. All right, so let's go on through it. It's called One Adventurous Ant. Nothing that I do is crazy fancy or anything like that, but you can grab it for free. Just go click the link in the description below. And what you're going to do is you're going to sign up for a free month of my membership. Don't love it after a month. Don't worry about it. All right. But what I love about this is, again, completely interactive. So you can be doing it just as a class, or again, your students can be doing it independently in groups and pairs if you have access to things like tablets, like Chromebooks, things like that. If you don't have access to things like that, not to worry, not to worry, you're going to use printouts. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through a story about this wonderful little ant that I have created. But first, might as well get some solfege assessments done while we're doing it. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your students come up to the board and tap to put these flowers in the right place. Now, what I've done here is I've made it so the only thing that they can touch is the flowers, because we all know that mess of our students coming up either to our computers because we got the projector going on, or our smart boards, and they tap something and they touch something that you didn't want them touching. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your students grab the flowers that go along with the solfege colors. Now, in this case, I'm using the colors that are used for boom whackers and bells and things like that, right? Just the colors of the rainbow. If you haven't done that, I encourage you. It just makes everything so much clearer, so effective, so easy. And then your students can help find all these lovely flowers. Doesn't have to be perfect. Of course, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're music educators and nothing ever happens to be perfect, right? But they can grab the right colors and put them on the right solfege, right? I'm going to undo that. All right. So as you go along, that's the first thing that you do. The second thing that you do is you can actually have your students do a short composition, because why not get a little composing in there as well? Again, just using the flowers, so they have to put it on the right space or line. If you're using C as dough, then so on and so forth, but you can change around where dough is. All right. That's just a little bit of some fun to start before our story called One Adventurous Ant. And this is, again, an interactive musical story made by a music educator for the music educator. All right, so let's real quick go through the story that I've created called One Adventurous Ant. Again, not going to try to do the whole thing, just show you little bits and pieces of it. All right, once upon a time, there was a young ant called Speck. Now, the problem with Speck is very brave, he's very adventurous, and he complains a lot because he doesn't want to do the chores that his parents set for him. So you're going to add in that solfege. You're going to sing a quick complaining song with your students using those solfege hand signs, right? All I have is work today, time for adventures this way. But Speck's father, he's going to come. There he is right there. He's going to come and also sing. It's time for work, then you can play, right? Can you sing this in a low father voice? It's time to work, then you can play. Then you can play. There it is. And then Speck's mother's going to come and say, besides, it's going to rain today. And again, you might as well sing it in a mother voice and in a father voice, because then you're giving your students that small, quick experience on the difference between high pitch and low pitch. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You're going to do a Speck song again so that they have a little extra time to practice. But Speck doesn't want to be patient. He doesn't want to listen to his family. So Speck actually leaves and he marches away like this. But instead of just having Speck march away, he might as well do it in a musical way. So we're going to have him do a rhythm, and we're not only going to do that, but might as well throw some more fundamentals in it. Can you have Speck march like this, right? Go through the rhythms with your students, and then one student come up, tap on the board, but do it in a piano way. Why not, right? There goes Speck, right? Okay, and then we might as well switch it up. Can we do it in a staccato way? Titi, titi, ta, ta. Can we do it in a forte way? Ta, ta, titi, ta, right? Again, so fun. so engaging, so interactive. Very soon, Speck found himself somewhere new, and in front of Speck was more food than he had ever seen. All right, and what you're going to do is you're going to have Speck eat all of this food. He's going to have a wild stomach ache. Just, be prepared for that. Be prepared to, talk to your students about what would happen if you ate all of this food, right? But you're also going to have your students pick the rhythm that makes the most sense. So we're going to be sandwich. Well, what rhythm would we pick for sandwich, right? Ta or titi, right? Have your students pick which one it is, and then have Speck come and eat those sandwiches on up. If your students are anything like mine, they're going to love this. They're going to love the fact that he eats the sandwiches. All right, juice. Well, what should we do for that? All right, so on and so forth. And again, you can be doing this as a class, or what you can do is you can then have your students either on the interactive workbook, which there's what they're going to put in for adding in the solfege. Again, they're just dragging and dropping. Again, we make it so that they can't touch anything else, because there's nothing more frustrating. Oops, at that. There's nothing more frustrating than wanting your students to complete a task like this, but it's not actually set up for little hands, right? So they can add in the solfege there. Does any of it need to be perfect? Of course not. And then what they can do is they can drag this circle, which there's many, many of them, to the rhythm that makes the most sense for each one. So sandwich, juice, cookies. I'm giving you away all the secrets. I'm giving you all the rhythms. All right. Again, you can do this as a group, or you can even have your students do it independently, ending with some interactive rhythm assignments. All right. Again, this is like for kindergarten, first grade, right? So we're only going to do tas and titis. So if we did sandwich, juice. Again, you're doing it either as a group, or they are dragging and dropping the rhythms found up here for sandwich, juice, so on and so forth, or you have printed it out and they are completing it here, right? Putting it in sandwich, juice, so on and so forth. All right. I don't want to give away the whole story, because, a couple stumbles and bumbles and some legato and articulation is going to come through as well. All right. I don't want to give it all away. You go ahead and check it out. Can this be something that you make for yourself? Of course. I do nothing crazy. It's simple, it's easy, it's effective, and it's a great way to grab some wonderful assessments while also getting your students reviewing all the fundamentals before they leave for this summer holiday, right? You want to go over articulation, dynamics. You want to go over different rhythms that you talked about. You want to go over different pitches that you talked about. And you want to cram it all in their brains before it all seeps out for you to then put back in the fall. But might as well grab some assessments while we're doing it. All right, that's all for today. I hope you have enjoyed this little quick lesson and how I use stories to really engage my students. Because when I tell you that this story, and one that I've made for Valentine's Day, for snowy days, the littlest snowflake, and an autumn leaf one, are just some of my students' actual favorite ones, because the entire class is an experience. There's no time where I'm really having to stand in front of them and do any sort of lecturing. It's such an easy one to pass out easy percussion instruments and have students play along. It's simple, it's engaging, it's effective. It can easily get your students moving and on their feet, all while you get to gather the data that you need. So in my mind, it's a win-win-win. So go ahead. You can either grab it for a free month or make something like this yourself. All right. All the best to you. I hope you are having a wonderful end of the school year. Get through it. We're almost there. Yeah. And we'll see you in the next one. Happy playing.